Ta-da!
All right. So
Hello, internet.
I believe today things we may talk about is I'll give an update. I like to give an updates on the little things I'm doing musically. Uh,
Excellent.
and but the main thing is that you've been exploring. Well, you've smoked salvia a lot, but you've been exploring salvia lately, particularly in higher doses that I am used to, I believe. Let's see. I thought there was one thing. Oh yeah, and also I was going to talk about my first ever kratom hangover.
Oh, okay.
So that's our agenda for the day.
Sounds good.
So tell us about your week, because it sounds from our other secret discussions, it sounds like you've had a pretty interesting week.
Um, yeah, the non-live streams. Let's see. Yes, it's been an interesting week. I have had a lot to do, but I've also prioritized um, cultivating the headspace where I can do the kind of work that I'm doing right now, which is kind of exploring and writing on the nature of self and consciousness, with the intention to develop these meditation practices that have developed, refine them, and so yeah, if you recall a week or two ago, I was considering new plant medicines. One specifically to see if it could take the role of cannabis, which I have determined doesn't exist. At least I haven't found it yet.
Oh, you mean something that would be similar to weed,
Yeah, which for me is
cannabis?
stimulating and um, and kind of euphoric. I don't know. It's got the whole package. But yeah, so one of the things I tried was Amanita, but I didn't take enough to really have a full experience, and that was kind of my day. I slotted for it. So I decided that night that I would try salvia because high dose salvia is something I haven't done specifically or with that intent.
Hey, can I
I've
interject for a
had the
second? Let me
Yeah, yeah.
interject for a second. I just want somebody left a comment, but the YouTube software chat is fucking up and isn't showing me your comments. So don't take it personally if I don't if we don't respond to them. That is fucking Google's fault. Uh, you can blame the machine. Don't blame me. Hopefully it'll fix itself. So you were
Yeah.
saying, Jeremy?
Say keep commenting, guys. Maybe it'll work. We can see your comments because we like responding. Yeah. So I've had, I suppose, a high dose experience, but I've never gone in with that intent. So yeah, contrary to most of Chris's videos, which I will double down and say, if you're not very experienced with salvia, high dose is not the way to go. In fact, I don't even think it would be that useful. Um, yeah, as far as letting you come back with, some kind of expanded experience, as opposed to just the befuddling, confusing one. So yeah, I packed a massive bowl.
How big is a massive bowl and what strength?
I don't know what strength I have. It's kind of old. I want to say it's 40x.
Wow, really? Okay.
They tend to buy higher strength stuff, and a bowl would be like if you're gonna pack a bowl for, a bowl of weed for two people, let's say, because my bowl's not that big, then that's about as much as I packed. And I took 3 massive hits all in a row, the last of which is a little dodgy because, it comes on pretty quick. So there was a couple times. The last time I did it, for some reason, I got confused and I bent over and put the bowl on the floor instead of my desk, where I found it, half an hour later. So yeah, any specific questions? That's kind of the setup and how much I took.
My perspective was, it was funny because you asked me some advice and stuff, which I gave. Yeah. Part of it was, don't do what you're going to do.
Indeed.
And then you texted me something like, wow, Salvia's weird. And I was like, yeah, no shit. That's what that's the good. So high dose salvia. That's the good. That means it went well if it was only weird and you didn't jump out of a window.
Yeah, I think I did say fucking weird.
But then afterward, it seemed like you were implying just the opposite, that you really liked it. But we purposely didn't talk about it because I wanted you to tell me about it in this space.
I'll kind of give you the blow by blow, but overall, I would say if I had to pick 2 drugs at this point in my life, it'd be cannabis and salvia.
Oh, there you go.
Specifically intense, high dose salvia for pure psychedelic experience, and cannabis for everything else. I did 2 sessions on 2 different days. Each session was 3 trips, and each trip was 3 hits of this massive bowl. So that's kind of how I did it.
So you're saying it was a total of 9 hits each time?
Yes. Yeah, over the course, right? So I'd come down enough that I was ready for more, and then I would pack the next bowl. And, I found that it's a little bit like other psychedelics where, because you're so high, when you come down and you feel like basically normal, you're still really fucking high. It's just not as high as you were before. And so I would suspect,
totally.
Yeah. I would suspect that when I was packing the next bowl, I was probably as high as, a normal, introspective dose of salvia. But at that point, my reference point was deeper.
That's what I have found, is that if you how many minutes, how long would you say was in between the 3? So we've got 2 days, 3 sessions each, 3 hits each, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're doing these multiple bowls in the same session, how long is in between?
I'm guessing about half an hour.
Oh, quite a bit. Okay, you definitely came down, but like you were saying, the down sober after salvia is not the same as salvia before, or as sober before salvia.
Right. Even you can, even with anything, with LSD, you can go super deep in 6 hours, think you're basically fine, but you're still pretty high because it's, a long trip. So, yeah, it's hard. Obviously, I checked my clock, but I didn't make a concerted effort to really track, so that's my guess. It's about half an hour. And the second day, I had smoked cannabis 4 hours earlier, and I noticed that the trip was significantly lengthened, the salvia trip.
Oh, okay.
In fact, there was a moment that I was like, uh-oh, did I break my brain? Because I should be down by now, and I'm totally not.
I have had that. I get that with ketamine, and now I realize, no, that's just how it is.
Oh, salvia on top of ketamine?
No, not necessarily just ketamine. Ketamine is that if I'm doing multiple, we need more units. If I'm dosing more than once in the same evening, by the third or fourth time I do it, it has this like latent. I don't come down after 20 minutes. I will actually be high for another 3 or 4 hours, but at a low level because they sort of stack.
Yeah, you know, my ketamine dosing compared to yours, I believe, is much higher, and it might be a matter of, yeah, like total quantity, because I find that if I do, you know, whatever, if I do a big dose, I'll lay there I won't redose. I might have to go pee, but I'll lay there for, well, actually, no, that's not true. I do redose. It's been a while. But each session will be like an hour and a half. I'll be laying there kind of immobile.
Really?
Yeah, and it's the thing, you know, there's this space you get to as you become adjusted to the experience, and then when you leave the space, regardless of objectively how high you are, then, you know, that's the space that I keep trying to get back to. So that's the same with Salvia. Yeah, I loved it. I did find. Want me to tell you about the actual experience?
Yes, I did. I thought all of this was was ultimately preamble. We've got to get to the aliens.
Yeah, right. Yeah, seeing if you had other questions. Yeah, I found that the first day it took me 2 sessions. And again, these are like back to back. You know, one session is 1 bowl, and 1 bowl is 3 hits. So I'm doing 3 bowls in an evening. And it took me the first 2 sessions to really understand how to navigate the experience. I got some great insights into the way that the mind works, but it was pretty distracted. I both times, as soon as I peaked, I felt like something was happening in my like world. That at first I was kind of connecting to the salvia itself, that because I had smoked.
Oh, you're clipping in it a little bit.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Feel good either way. Not in a great sound.
Are you in Boulder?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. My mind was constructing this narrative that this situation that other people knew about, and they were gonna come get me. And you know, I don't know what was gonna happen. Nothing bad. What?
Oh, just you were gone, and then you came out, and it sounded like you were talking about this like bad trip.
Oh no. Well, all right. Sorry. Let me see if I can get back to clear signal. I'll just go sit in my backyard. Okay. So one more time. I smoked, and my mind was creating this idea that there's a scenario that was taking place, and I don't know what was going to happen, but because I knew I was inebriated, it was uncomfortable to consider that maybe other people were going to be there or something. That was
yeah.
So I wish I had videoed it, because I was moving around and saying things that I don't really remember very well. I do recall. It's going to be hard to know what happened bowl by bowl.
Right.
The first one, I'm pretty sure at some point I got out of bed and then kind of just stood at my desk for a second and then went back and laid down again. But what was interesting, and I find this very telling about psychedelics and consciousness in general. When it was coming on, well, it comes on so fast. When I was in the peak, I kept looking for an internal experience. Like you do, right? Like you lay down and you close your eyes, you know, as opposed to being up. Right?
Yep.
So, you know, that's right. There's two ways to kind of do psychedelics and thought. You know, you can take them and walk around, or you can lay down with a blindfold. So I lay down, but I kept getting this, I don't know, I kept looking for an internal experience, and my mind's like, there is no internal experience. Your experience is only your experience. And so that meant that my experience was specifically about the room I was in, the bed I was in, you know, whatever else my mind was, however else my mind was describing my current situation, if that makes sense.
Well, it sounds like you mean now you're concentrating on your physical environment.
Well, I wasn't concentrating. That was literally all there was. That's all there was existed. There's nothing else. But what I realized after the first and or second bowl of that first day was that at all times, not only are we experiencing our current surroundings, there's also a narrative or a what I'm calling executive direction. There's a sense of the mind saying that based on the experience I'm having, we know these other things to be true. Based on the fact that I'm in my bedroom, I know that I have to go downstairs if I want to go to the kitchen. You know, or whatever.
No, I understand what you mean. Those things you take for granted are in fact part of your mental landscape.
Right, which led me to a couple things, one of which a lot of people, you know, you just say in typical Buddhist thought, we're trying to, you know, when you're practicing Buddhist spirituality, one practice is the attempt at coming into the moment, right? And so we're learning how to quiet our minds. We're learning how to basically be present and to understand literally what is present. So yeah, I realized that I was having an odd experience because I wasn't able to drop into the trip itself because the trip was all about that particular aspect of the mind, if that makes sense.
What aspect?
The aspect that I'm not here based on being here, these other things are true, right? I'm not in my car driving, I'm going to work and I'm imagining work as opposed to just being in my car.
Okay.
And so what I realized is that's kind of a problem because nothing exists except your current experience. And I don't mean that ontologically. I mean experientially, all you got is your current experience. And so if you're going around imagining other realities that don't exist, that's a problem. Now, I don't mean that. What I mean is that if you need to do something else, right? If you're sitting in your backyard and you're bored and you want to watch TV, your brain knows what to do in order to make that happen, right? It knows where to go and where the TV is and how to operate that. It's this theoretical knowledge that then gets carried out.
Right.
If you're sitting in the backyard and you're, you know, just idly imagining other things because your mind is going, then that's a problem because you're distracted from your experience, and the experience you're having, if you're having it fully, should be more pleasurable than if you're distracted. That's my kind of working hypothesis of
Can I interject? All right,
Yeah.
I like where you're going, and I don't know if you're taking this for granted or if it hasn't occurred to you that all of your you've got your immediate experience, and then you've got the distractions from the immediate experience, right?
No, I would say whatever is immediate experience is that. The distraction would only be when your attention goes inside into the realities your mind is creating, whether that's internal dialogue or vision of something, or that's what I mean.
Okay, well, I wanted to point out that at that point, those distractions are your immediate experience.
Well, everything is your immediate experience, yes. But what I'm taking the viewpoint that if you're driving down the road unaware of what you're doing and you get into an accident, then there's good experience and bad experience, let's say. And I know that I'm veering into some pretty subjective territory, but, you know, I was even started using the word psychosis in my writing to say that if you're in one reality, but you're thinking about another one, then that's psychotic. That's a problem.
Okay, well, I'll let you go with it. I just want to point out I don't necessarily agree with all of this.
Well, I'm not arguing. I'm agreeing with you. Everything is your experience. But what I'm saying is there's a reference point that has more practical or spiritual value than another. You know, if you break up with a girl and she's done with you and all you do is sit around thinking about her, well, that's your experience, but that's also a problem because you just got fired from your job because you didn't go in.
Well, that's true. That's true.
That's the level I'm talking. I'm talking at what's the therapeutic value of these insights.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we understood that whatever's going on in your mind is part of your experience. So there's not actually a duality between your experience and this mind stuff.
Well, and to that point, that's the problem, is we don't know what's reality sometimes, because as far as the brain's concerned, whatever it's experiencing is its experience. But that's not actually how it's working in the physical world, regardless of deeper metaphysics, you know. So anyway, that's the second session. I had that experience again, or the second bowl, I had the same experience. I got in bed, I smoked, I laid down, and then I got up and I grabbed my jacket and started wandering around my room, saying something, but I don't remember what it was. But I felt like I was going somewhere, or supposed to go somewhere. And then I put it down and kind of wandered back to bed and then laid down and finished it up. So it's those two that made me realize that I'm not going to get anything out of Salvia if I can't focus on my if what I'm focusing on is this executive control experience, which is, you know, it's like the frontal lobe, right? It's all about executive control. It's planning in time, and it's interpreting a present experience based on future events, which is how we operate, right? But if we can get that process to quiet down and just be in the present moment, then that's when I think so-called spiritual experience happens. It doesn't happen if you're thinking about a bunch of different realities. There's not enough attention in the moment to actually experience spirituality. So that kind of gave me a new perspective of spirituality, that it's based on the present moment. If you want to experience God or aliens, guess what? They're right here, because there's nowhere else to go. Now, if you're astral traveling, that's a different topic that I won't get into. But for that, you know, so that was my insight on the first two. Number one, the present moment, physical present moment, is all there is. and now I'm experiencing it, or I should say, if I'm experiencing the present moment through the lens of the future or another time frame, then I'm getting confused and not actually having a very good experience. Because what I want to do is lay down. So the third time I did it, I feel like I laid there, I didn't get up. Because after each bowl, I would write for a while and figure out, like, okay, here's what's happening, and here's what I should focus on in order to move my experience towards what I think is the direction I want it to go in, which was less about what's going on and more about the experience itself, the Salvia. I wanted to get information from Salvia, but all I was getting was my confused mind. So that was the first day.
That's day one.
That's day one. I wandered around. I got confused. I thought I was supposed to be going somewhere, but I realized what was going on, and I got insight and kind of figured it out. So the second day, I was working with all these ideas all day, and I came back and I was, meditate before the session. I thought, okay, the only thing I have to do is be in this moment. I'm not going anywhere, right? I'm trying to prime my brain, because I realize that why I'm doing this is because I want to get information from the Salvia experience. Now, I don't know if that's a specific entity or that's, or if that's an experience I can access because my attention is now, or my awareness is now expanded. I don't know where the information comes from, but I decided that was my goal, right? I wanted to get information about something. So I smoked the first bowl. Let's see. I didn't get out of bed. I'm having a hard time remembering which is which. One time I was my plan was to sit on the edge of my bed, smoke, put the pipe down on my desk, and then, rotate my body and lay on the bed. But...
And that's my plan.
And that's my plan, but that didn't go very well. That didn't... by the time I was putting the bowl down from the third hit, I was so strong that I just laid back, which wasn't a problem. So I was sitting on my bed and I just laid back. But I was also physically uncomfortable because my back hurt. But it took me a couple minutes to realize what was going on. And at that point, I was past the actual peak. So that kind of taught me a lesson.
It's funny. Oh, that is so well, it's psychedelics in general, but especially Salvia, maybe, or maybe not, whatever. Is that these lessons, sometimes the little lessons that you learn are, I need to be more careful about my position, my sitting position.
Yeah, it's true, because you're so, you're basically putting yourself into this really vulnerable, infantile, almost experience, especially with Salvia. And that's another thing I kept getting. Every single session felt similar. I felt like I was a baby, and that I was remembering experience as I experienced it as a baby.
Huh.
Now, I was able ultimately to connect that to my adult mind and to kind of determine how to navigate the experience, but every single time, what it really felt like in my body was as if and that was one of my first experiences on the first bowl, was that maybe I was a baby. I wasn't imagining I was in a crib, but that I was somehow, incapacitated like babies are. They just roll around before you can crawl, really. but somebody was going to come get me because that was the state I was. So it's hard, Anyway, so that was kind of in there, this infantile experience. So yeah, the lesson was I have to craft it very, very precisely, because if I want to lay down, I have to be in that position already, because I'm not going to be able to move once, it kicks in at full strength. But if I'm in a sitting position, I have to determine where to put my desk so I don't run into it if I get up. Anyway, so there's all these little details.
And we are now in the second of the 3 days.
Yeah, I'm mixing them a little bit, but yeah, the second of the 3 days, on the second day, the first session I did, I don't remember what happened, but basically it went similar. The first session I came out of and thought, okay, here's how to navigate more precisely, here's what I need to do, here's the thought. I need to go in with this specific focus.
Yep, that's what I do with Salvia. I mean, it's been suggested to me that needing to have an intention going into Salvia might be a limitation, like a sort of a fear response. And I think there might be something that just diving into the Salvia without any expectation is more courageous.
Yeah.
I'd say having a little bit of fear around Salvia is perfectly okay, though, because bad experiences happen.
I was nervous every time.
Yeah, me too. And at least for higher doses, I am. And the other thing is, if I set some kind of expectation, I just tend to get more out of it. In fact, oftentimes, if I'm looking for something, I get it before I even smoke it, to tell you the truth. Just the ritual of asking a question and going through this psychedelic ritual, I am already getting answers before I smoke the bowl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, let me go refill my coffee while I'm not playing.
Oh, okay. I'll share my perspective on intention and then tell Chris when he gets back. I've been working a lot with how the brain works and thought, like the unification of mind and body, or mind and brain, which then, innervates the body. So there's this kind of there's this kind of internested system of mind and body that's not just those two. And so from that perspective, I would call into question, what is an intention? Now, obviously, we know an intention to be that you want something to happen via the action you're taking, which is fine. I mean, that's what it is. But I think in the brain, what's happening is kind of like I was saying before. If you're driving to the store, if you're driving your car and your intention is to go to the store, that's what's going to happen. You're going to arrive at the store, most likely. If you'll, take a psychedelic and your intention is a healing, your brain is primed with that thought. The executive part of your brain that, again, is utilizing the experience you have for a future endpoint, your brain is going to start to interpret and consider the experience you're having through the perspective of your intention. So, Chris, I was saying that I was examining what an intention really is.
Huh, that's an interesting question. Oh, by the way, I wanted to interject a technical thing for you. That people hop in and out of the stream. Yeah. So if we're on a particular topic, every once in a while, don't take it for granted that people know that we're talking about Salvia. Just try to go back to, imagine people are popping in and out.
Oh, yeah, we're talking high-dose Salvia
experiences, and Jeremy's had a bunch of them the last few days.
Yeah. So what I think an intention is, which is, well, it's more like, how does an intention work? And this is where mind and body kind of become unified, which it is, because Descartes was just wrong. But he didn't take enough psychedelics to know that they were the same thing. Mind and body are this unified system, in my perspective. And like any intention, as I was saying before, the brain, the frontal lobe, or the frontal lobe executive part of the brain holds an idea, and it interprets everything going on according to that idea. So if you have an intention to, forgive your ancestors and you take psychedelics, it's gonna experience that state and interpret it with this idea in mind. I want to forgive my ancestors, and then it'll kind of create an experience out of it. As opposed to if you took psychedelics and your intention was to go to a party, then that's what's going to happen, right? Because that's how the brain works. It goes from this reality to the next one via an intention, which is an idea, which then affects your body. So yes, I think intentions are good because the brain needs to do something with the experience. If you don't have an intention, or it's a random intention because you don't have one, then your brain's gonna do whatever it wants, which may or may not be that useful. If you're able to exist in a state of having no intentions at all, then it's possible you're going to get into that experience and not really go anywhere, because your brain's going to be so in the moment with it that nothing really happens. You just feel what it feels like and then come back. And that's what happened to me, actually. Maybe it was the second bowl, the second day, I went in and I was really, really trying to focus on the experience I was having. What's going on over there, Chris? Oh, cat drama.
Pee where she's not supposed to pee. God damn it!
What's up?
She peed in my suitcase.
Oh, that sucks. That sounds like a country song.
Yeah, my cat peed in my suitcase. No, country people don't have suitcases. They have horses.
Saddlebags, I guess. Oh, anyway, the second time or maybe it was the third time, I don't know, I realized that I was so in the moment with the experience, I wasn't getting anything out of it. And then I got the message that I had to ask something in order to actually get a message.
See?
So, yeah. So then, this is my last bowl. This is my 6th bowl of this whole adventure. On the way back, I finally got it. Okay, I need to feel the experience in my body, because otherwise it's all mind, and my mind's going all over the place and I can't focus. And I need to go in with real questions for the experience to then give me something. And once it gives me something, we enter a dialogue, and then we can really engage that relationship as opposed to just sort of floating wherever. Which I think on a low dose salvia, it's easier to get there because there's more, mental control to work with the experience. The experience isn't as intense. And on high dose, yeah, it took me all the way to the very end to really understand how to work with it. So next Friday, hopefully I'll have more information for you, because I'm planning on doing at least one 3-bowl session where hopefully I can go straight into this relational experience with Salvia itself. And again, I'm not somebody who has real hallucinations or visions. I've never seen aliens. I don't hear voices. Entities don't visit me. Even in my deepest psychedelic states, I'm aware that whatever is happening is mind. But at the same time, the mind and body is like a radio antenna. You can experience anything you want. So
it's more mechanical, right? I'm not in the illusion that my mind content is real. Therefore, aliens or Elvis, whoever, doesn't show up because I just, whatever. Maybe because I've meditated, and for me, it's just arbitrary mental content. And my goal is always to have an empty mind. But instead of trying to become empty, now I'm learning that I have to go in and utilize that mind state in order to get more information, if that makes sense. To use my mind as a radio antenna as opposed to, something that I just stuff with all these thoughts. I'm like waiting to receive an experience as opposed to generate one. Maybe that's a better way to put it. So anyway, that's what I learned. At one point, Salvia told me all Salvia does is getting your clothes sweaty, which I thought was kind of entertaining. Chris went off into the light. Oh, he's back. Yeah, it said some other funny things that in the moment I knew I was going to talk about today, so I was chuckling because I thought people would find that humorous. Because, yeah, I don't... I think every time I peaked, my body did get sweaty. So anyway, that was the message that all Salvia does is get your clothes sweaty. And then I'm going to have to take my blindfold off anyway, and it's sweaty also. And that's kind of all I got. So it really took me a while to focus and really figure out where the doorway to information is. So we'll see if I learned anything, because next time, hopefully I'll have a more actually, at the very end, I started asking questions. I finally got the message. It was like, fucking ask me something. Otherwise, I can't tell you anything. So I asked various questions, and I got really good answers. But I was also on the very tail end, so it felt kind of self-created. Yeah, it got some. It was really interesting. It was very practical, actually. I kept getting the message that the Salvia. I'm not sure I need a good name for it. The Salvia information. Let's just say that. I don't know where it's coming from or who or what, but I got information. The Salvia information was very practical. That's what I got. And that it was, like I said before, it's just about your body, the room you're in, the physical kind of reality of your reality. That was what it was commenting on. There was no imagination. There was no anything else. It was just right there. It was like the mind shut off, and then reality, or it's like going to Meow Wolf. Like, you're in a kitchen, but the dishwasher has a rainbow sparkly portal that you crawl through, and then you get into a jungle. So it's all three-dimensional reality, but it was like hugely enhanced. So a lot of the information I got was about my physical health and about the things going on in my life. It was like, that's all I have to tell you is what's actually going on. But I suspect if I went in with questions about dreaming or other realities, that it would have answers. It's just, it could only respond to what I was bringing to it, apparently, because otherwise I would just spin out and go. So I think that's my story. It was great. I love it. I feel very comfortable with it. I definitely needed to focus hugely before every bowl, and my heart was pounding. Like, I was really nervous. But once I was on bowl number 2, I was fine. I was already in the state. But what I learned too is, when I was nervous and I was trying to focus before it was less important to try to calm myself down as it was to just project myself like remember what the experience was like and kind of anticipate just mechanics about the experience, like, you know, how am I gonna lay down, where am I gonna put my pipe, you know, what is my intention, how do I work with it. That was really what I got, was I needed to just focus on the practicalities as opposed to trying to like be calm, because that was ultimately irrelevant. If I was calm or nervous, it was more about, can I do this skillfully? Yeah, I mean, I'll be one more voice in the world, however many there are, to say I loved it. High dose salvia, it's awesome. Just know what the fuck you're doing and treat it like you would driving a race car. Like, do your homework, go to your classes, do some test runs, you know what the fuck you're doing, because, you know, if you push the wrong button and you crash your car, then whatever, you'll come back in 10 minutes. But, you know,
maybe
there's no reason. Maybe. But yeah, you might be left with some, you know, kind of trauma experience. I learned about that in my early days working with my psychedelics teacher, that if you are high on something and you have a traumatic experience, which could be about your own content, you know, or could be about the drug itself, one of the best ways to fix that is to go back into the drug experience, because your body is linking them, right? So it's linking, that's what HPPD, right? Persistent psychedelic disorder.
Okay, anyway, I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the acronym.
Right, it's you know, basically...
the one where you're always having hallucinations.
Well, yeah, although I don't think it's that strong. But
well, it can be. I mean, people say it does happen.
Oh, yeah, you have these lingering psychedelic experiences, which I think is when the body wasn't able to go through the experience well, and it's kind of holding on or had a bad time, and then kind of linking that, and it kind of brings it back to normal consciousness. Anyway, if you go back into the state with the intention of fixing it, I think it could be an effective way of either healing HPPD, if I'm getting the acronym right, or or whatever your own content is. So yeah, it was great. I fucking loved it. And I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah, Chris at salviahealings.com. His thing is one thing we talked about, that is that he'll work with people who've had traumatic salvia experiences with salvia.
Yeah, exactly. Because
the problem is convincing people, and I've offered to people that I'm willing to help them do that. I think I probably could, but I've never had anybody take me up on it, because traumatic salvia experiences are so traumatic that doing it again is the goddamn last thing that people usually want to do.
Yeah,
Even though doing it in a controlled manner, actually, there is a good chance that it'll help. I mean, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know. If you're angry at your parent and they die and you try to work out your anger, it's going to take a lot more fucking time than if you went to them while they were alive and said, hey, I'm angry, and they, and you make up or something, right? To actually work out your situation in the context in which it arose makes sense, because that's what it's about. It probably takes longer to try to heal out of that context, unless you have to. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think that's true.
So the story won't be as oh my god. If we made money, I could have a studio and not be with my fucking cat and shit. In another world. Yeah, right. I was going to tell you that it's not going to go nearly as long or as interesting, but it turns out that kratom hangovers exist.
Oh yeah, let's hear about that.
They are too. The other day I took I've been experimenting with kratom. I don't actually love kratom. A lot of people love it, and they talk about getting addicted to it and stuff. And I don't understand how you could be addicted to kratom. I mean, it's kind of fun in a I'm doing this instead of drinking alcohol or getting high way. But like, frankly, I mean, it's how do I put it? It's fun having something new to play with, and I get that kratom means something to some people. And if I open this kava bar, I might have kratom. And I don't know how to put it. I basically, the problem with kratom is I don't like it as much as kava. I don't like it as much as weed. I don't like it as much as alcohol.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Oh, you know what?
There's not a lot of information in
it. And even just for a like laid back, I'm not going to, I mean, it's similar to kava, but I like kava more. And I don't even know why, because kava hardly does anything at all. But what little it does do, like. But
that's a good business model.
But I will say that kratom, one thing, for better or for worse, you take enough, you really do get almost kind of drunk. Maybe not like really drunk, but it has a pretty strong effect for me, and I think it does stronger for others because I have noticed a pattern in my life that opiates don't work well for me. And I think that's why I don't like it much too. There is a pattern that goes back for years that if I experiment with a codeine, I'm like, eh. I smoked many years ago. I smoked opium and was like, eh. So the straight bashing your dopamine receptors style of drug, I don't even feel like it works very well for me. But even to the degree that it does work, I've just never liked it. Like the whole take some prescription painkillers and drink a beer. I'm like, yeah, I'm more drunk now, but not in a good way.
I this is maybe for later inquiry, but I think the reason that those don't work for you is connected to the reason that you like salvia, because it's like anti-opiate almost.
Maybe, I don't know. Anyway. But in any case, yes, that is me not really liking kratom and doing it anyway. And then the other day I took 15 grams.
Oh, wow.
Well, I wanted to explore the higher end of kratom because I want to know what's going on up there. And also, it's a little weird because dosing of kratom is a mysterious world. Because you have some people who say, oh, try half a gram, try 1 gram, and 2 if you really want to get crazy because you're at a concert. And then but then you see other folks that say, oh, 5 grams, that's low, 10 grams, that's normal. And I've seen on like the kratom subreddit where there are people taking 30 grams a day. They're not usually too proud of it. Those are people who have a problem, but still, that is the range of what a problem. 30 grams a day of kratom is probably what 10 beers, the equivalent of 10 beers a day.
Yeah.
Like at that point, you probably have a problem and you probably know it. So this is the most I've taken. 10, I find for me, 6 to 8 is I'm feeling relaxed and maybe I even kind of like it. 10 is definitely kind of like drunk kind of. 3 beers kind of, and then 15 is getting to the point of being kind of annoying and I probably wouldn't want to drive. But still, I didn't make any nausea. Some people have nausea with kratom. I do not, even when I took a lot. But I kind of felt like I didn't sleep well, and I don't know if that was the kratom or just because my head was spinning on things that I was excited about, because I was just staying up that night. This is a couple nights ago, and I was staying up all night basically daydreaming about ideas for the hypothetical kava bar that me and Aaron are hypothetically opening. Actually, I was thinking a lot in terms of, okay, well, how does this integrate with my other projects, like the jam sessions that me and Jeremy put on? Because we've done it twice, and we tried a third time, and it didn't work out, is putting on explicitly sacred psychedelic jam sessions for musicians to take psilocybin while playing music together, and it's really cool. Yeah, but how do these things link up, or what do they compete? Do they complement one another? And I was thinking about these issues like all night, and then the next night I could hardly function because A, I was tired, and B, I like really did feel not like an alcohol hangover that bad. Not like I couldn't get out of bed, but more like I didn't want to get out of bed. Um, so that is, I will say, kratom's relatively cheap. Compared, it's a lot cheaper, I think, per dose than kava. And for some folks, it does help. The big thing, the big argument for kratom is that because it is a very light, sort of soft opiate, it can really help people who have opiate problems and are trying to get off of opiates. And it is not officially scheduled or whatever, like the FDA or whatever. It has not officially said that it is something that you can use for addictions, but there are a lot of people out there saying that it's great for helping your opiate addictions.
Yeah. Although if you are trying to find your way out of an opiate addiction, salvia is also useful, and if it's bad, ibogaine is the big hitter. But I always thought it was odd to swap out one opiate for another, like methadone, for heroin use. But
yeah,
it's better.
You know, I worked with somebody a few months ago now that had been a heroin addict and had swapped it out for methadone 20 years ago and has been on methadone this entire time. And he wanted to wean himself off of methadone, and he came to me to work to explore using salvia.
Wow, cool.
So we only worked together. He found me in my channel. Actually, he's a regular viewer of the channel, and he lives in Oregon. So we met up and we had a salvia session, which he really liked. I think he may have gone on to, at least it was on his radar, to use salvia some more. And he was seeking out. He knew somebody who had a connection with ibogaine, and he was planning on taking ibogaine specifically to wean himself off of methadone. But he was pretty functional guy compared to being a heroin addict. I mean, that is the argument for swapping out an opiate for another opiate, is that if you can get off of heroin, that's good.
That's good. Yeah, totally. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I tend to do a lot of research before I try something new. When I didn't really do a lot of research on salvia because I've been using it for so many years. But after my sessions, I kind of looked into the kappa opioid receptor, how it works. I did notice that my body, after my sessions, my body kind of felt prickly. Like my nerve endings were alive or something. And I've heard it said that when you come off an opiate addiction, you can feel that because it's been like, I don't know, these are not technical terms. It's been soothing your nervous system that you tend to feel prickly or there's ants on you or something. So I was kind of toying around with the idea of how the kappa opioid receptor was, I don't know, anti-opiates, and then
right.
The night after the salvia, I took some kratom to restock my.
Oh, did you?
Restock my opiate storehouse.
Oh yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I did. I like it, but I find for me taking kratom is like doing meditating, just doing like a mindfulness meditation. My mind sort of slows down. I feel a little drunk and everything's just sort of cool and I'm just kind of there, and that's kind of it. And sometimes if I'm worried about things, if I can't get my mind to stop, I find kratom is really useful. And even the next day, I'll kind of still feel like, everything's cool. There's nothing really I have to think about. That's the kind of vibe for me of kratom. As opposed to cannabis, which for me launches me into like 5 thought streams at once which I kind of more prefer. But if I'm having problems in my mind, I kind of like kratom. Yeah, the fact that it doesn't have information means that it's more embodied. So I guess that's what it is. Alcohol too. It's just an embodiment.
Yeah, well,
it just brings you into the physicality.
yeah, like that was actually kind of what I was going to bring up is the problem I have sort of with your apology for kratom is that everything you're talking about alcohol does better and it tastes good.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was gonna ask you. So I was taking kratom pill capsules, and I decided that was stupid. So I mixed it with water, and I just got this like thick, kind of like, sour tasting slurry. All right, yeah.
No.
How do you do it?
No, you make tea.
Oh, with warm water?
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
hot.
straight
In fact, I
up.
read it's best to make it really hot and let it cool, but I would probably want to look that up. But in any case, yeah, you can make it tea and it tastes like kind of a bitter green tea.
Oh, okay. I've had that. Yeah, I didn't do it. So you strain out the solids, basically.
Yeah, you don't need the
Oh.
solids. In fact, I suspect that they would potentially give you an upset stomach.
Oh, yeah. I
At
was
least if
fine.
you're taking 15 grams, they might.
Yes, yes. Uh, the capsules are powder, right? So if you're taking capsules, you're eating the powder. Do you from based on my experience, I would say 6 to 8 grams is a good dose, which in my mind, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, in my mind means that if you're brewing 7 grams, let's say, of kratom, and you take out the solids, you've extracted all the active ingredients.
That's the theory.
That's the theory? Okay, yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. It's quite possible that it would be more efficient to eat all of it rather than straining it. But I can say that it works.
Yeah. Okay.
It definitely works.
I had a kava bar that has kratom said that they, what was their deal? Each drink was made with 4 grams, but if you were gonna eat the powder, you would only eat 1 gram.
Really?
Yeah, now they were young and they seemed high, so I don't know. That means you're losing 75% of your...
That seems to be the
chemical.
implication, huh?
Yeah. So I don't know. But okay, thanks for that tip. 'Cause I
Can-
was like, this can't be right. Like I choked it down and it was fine, and it wasn't very good.
Let me ask you something though about that, because I need to. If I'm going to have kratom, the laws for serving kratom are a little weird. Man, I'm learning all about this stuff, and like the rules for just giving packaged like supplements are totally different than the rules for serving it in a bar, which is really fucking frustrating. The laws in this goddamn country when it comes to putting things in your mouth or in your nose
God.
or like they're in theory they're supposed to help us and keep us safe, but they don't.
Oh my God! And there's no education, so
Educating people is
legalize something. Yeah, it's never right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
fucking
allowed to sell.
ridiculous.
You're allowed to sell salvia. You're allowed to sell kratom, but you're not allowed to talk about it. Because you're not supposed to suggest it, right? You're allowed to call it incense, but that means you're not allowed to tell people how to use salvia, which means they smoke too much, which means that they jump out of a window. Goddamn.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. Yeah, this country's it's fucking ridiculous.
Anyway, my question though was when you got the kratom, was it labeled as kratom? How did it look? Because serving kratom is not illegal, but the FDA wishes it was illegal, and so they make it hard to serve. So I'm just wondering, did they actually explicitly call it kratom, or did they call it something weird? Because I went into one that had kratom, but they were just calling it like mystery red tea.
Oh. Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like somehow I knew they were serving kratom. But I do recall that a lot of the names of the drinks didn't say kratom, but maybe it said it somewhere else. So maybe there was some kind of trick that I don't even know how this works. So I'm completely making this up. But maybe they, somehow said they have kratom, but then, the drink, there was like red and green and yellow, and I knew
Yeah.
or white, and I knew that referred to kratom. So maybe that was kind of how it was. And they also sold powder that you could take home.
See, that makes me nervous. Like, I went into it, and that's exactly how it was. They had kratom on their menu. They were a kava bar. They had kratom on the menu, but it was like red tea, green tea, and yellow, I think, because those are the colors of kratom, and they call it like clarity. And then I asked, is that kratom? And he was like, yeah, don't tell anybody. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but yeah, he did kind of get whispery, like, yeah, it's kratom.
Huh.
But like, I mean, if I start a business, like, does that mean I'm breaking a rule and they're gonna fucking close me? Kratom, I don't even like kratom. It's not worth it. So,
like, okay, let me get this straight. You can sell kratom to people in a kava bar, prepared kratom that they know is kratom, and they're gonna drink it and they're gonna get high off it. You can do that, but if you if you use the word kratom, that somehow you're like a drug pusher. You can't use the word.
yeah, I don't know. And what's hard is the person who has the information is the health inspector. But if I ask the health inspector, I'm going up to the cop and saying, well, define murder, because this is what I want to do, But the only person who actually really has the answer is the health inspector, who is the one who's going to tell you not to do it.
But
Either that, or I might go ask another kava bar outside of my town, because I wouldn't be competing with them. I might do that, but
it seems like
it's
the
really
health
weird.
Inspector would have to tell you informationally because it's not illegal. Like, it's not scheduled, so it shouldn't be any less legal than a hamburger, right?
No, man, that's what I'm saying. It's not like that. It's way more complicated than that, because there is more than one agency defining when and how you're allowed to put things into your body. The DEA is relevant. The FDA is relevant. The Department of Agriculture is relevant, and they all do things differently. And exactly that's why sometimes you're allowed to do it this way and not that. You can package it and call it incense, because that would be Department of Agriculture, and the Department of Agriculture doesn't have a problem with kratom or salvia. But if you put it into a glass, also the DEA doesn't have a problem with kratom or salvia, but the FDA does. So if you put it in a glass and say, drink this, especially if you say it'll help you, it'll cure you in this way, or it'll cure you in that way, that's one thing you absolutely can't make claims. For with kratom, does it help people with opioid addiction? Yes. Am I allowed to tell you that in my shop? No.
Okay, so interesting. Agriculture is about packaging and selling.
Right.
FDA is about health kind of claims, and DEA is scheduling and just illegality of a chemical.
Right. And then, of course, in the DEA, we mostly talk about Schedule 1 drugs, but there's also Schedule 2 and 3, which are less bad in theory, even though Coke, I think, is a Schedule 2, or fentanyl is Schedule 2 or 3, and marijuana is Schedule 1. So the regulations don't work that well. Some of the people doing them are well-intentioned. Some of them are not. And that is the world that we live in these days. I have a meeting at 2, so I have to go, actually.
Okay.
And I will end with another apology that I couldn't see any chats today because YouTube fucked up. And also my cat peed in my suitcase, and I'm not very pleased with that. Actually, it's not the pee in the suitcase that's as big a deal. It's we just got this cat a few weeks ago, and this is the first time that she has misbehaved and peed where she's not supposed to, and that can become a pattern. So I'm a little bit. Next time that anybody out there smokes salvia, put your intention on my cat Puzzle not peeing all over Cloudless Rain's house. That's put your salvia intention into that. We'll do it together. Cool. Well, then I think that we will call it a day, and we will probably be back in a week.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.